President Donald J. Trump, is he really fit or is he just fat? In this third episode of the series, we're going to dive into his regular diet and see what we can learn about the physical fitness and health of our president by what he's eating. Tune in and take notes.
Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
We all know and appreciate that your level of physical fitness, your level of health is one of the things that drives not just your quality of life, but also your effectiveness in life. Like, how good are you? How equipped are you? How capable are you of going out and actually expressing your best self, being your best, whether it's in relationships, your health, your work, your career. And in this episode of the podcast, we're going to dive into more about Donald Trump's health and vitality through the lens of his diet and eating pattern. Because in CrossFit world, we have our pyramid of physical fitness, and the base of it is definitely diet. We all know and appreciate that you can't out-exercise a crappy diet. We all know and appreciate that healthy eating is one of the key drivers of, are you actually healthy or not? And all of that drives your physical capacity, your mental acuity, your functional capacity, effectively, like how good you are, how effective you are, how capable you are as a person is all partly a function of how healthy is your diet. So there's a lot of stuff that we actually know about President Donald Trump's diet, and we're going to lay it all out in this episode of the podcast and try and draw some conclusions, perhaps. So let's get right into it. Part two. So this is part three of the series, diet and eating pattern. So, boom. Well, first up, we're going to talk about his fast food preferences. This has been a constant topic of public interest because it's all over the news. Like, Donald Trump is definitely well known for his fondness for fast food, which has been known to be McDonald's burgers, KFC fried chicken, and pizza. Apparently, like from what we knew from the news, his typical McDonald's order includes 2 Big Macs, 2 Filet-O-Fish sandwiches, and a chocolate milkshake, which I did some math on this earlier. That's about 2,430 calories, and not one of them is a good calorie. It's not a good calorie in sight. Like, that's a hot mess. That's a bunch of bullshit right there. That said, like, if you're going to McDonald's, you're not eating healthy to begin with. We all know that. Also, the trouble is that nobody can escape the effects of poor eating choices. Nobody can escape the effects of eating fast food regularly. So as far as Donald Trump's fast food proclivities are concerned, it is at least worrisome at a health level, which is probably part of the reason why RFK and Melania had been pushing him to remove processed foods from his diet and eat in a healthier fashion. So that's fast food preferences, let's put it that way. Next, we'll talk about meal patterns. Donald Trump is known to skip breakfast and sometimes skip lunch, and will instead opt for snacking as he goes along. We do have some evidence that he likes to snack on Doritos. When he does have lunch, he tends to favor meatloaf sandwiches. When he does eat, it's almost always dinner. Dinner is his biggest meal. It's his main meal, and it often consists of fast food. None of this is good. I'll take that back. If you're intermittent fasting, if that's an intentional decision that you're making, there can be incredible benefits from intermittent fasting. And people who typically skip breakfast and lunch are almost like by default intermittent fasters, almost by definition intermittent fasters. And there can be incredible health benefits associated with that. It's one of the things that can help keep you more insulin sensitive versus insulin resistant. And it is one way of structurally limiting caloric intake. So given that caloric intake restriction is one of the things that has been shown consistently over time to produce more longevity, higher quality of life into later years. It is possible that Donald Trump's meal pattern could actually be one of the strengths, let's put it that way, of his diet. Snacking on Doritos, definitely not, but for him, possibly having an OMAD diet, a one meal a day, OMAD, an OMAD diet, might be part of the reason why he's got the energy and vitality that we do know that he does, the energy and the cognitive acuity that we know that he has. So that's meal patterns. I looked into his beverage choices, and it was red flags galore. Well, let me back up on that. To be fair, he completely abstains from alcohol, which is very commendable. I've seen in podcasts where he talks about how he had some people in his family that had struggled with alcohol addiction, and it had affected him in a certain way where he just decided to stay away from alcohol entirely. And I want to commend him for that. That's a great choice no matter who you are. Data also, or at least reports also say that he tends to refrain from coffee also, which I find really interesting, given that so many people, myself included, think of coffee as a wonder drug that can dramatically improve productivity. Apparently, President Trump is not particularly interested in coffee. And depending on how you look at it, maybe that's a pro, maybe that's a con. What's definitely not helping him out is that he's been known to have up to 12 cans of Diet Coke daily. That's not getting him any healthier anytime soon. Like, that to me definitively sounds like a Diet Coke addiction, a sugar addiction. And it is the new American way to be sugar addicted, but it's not a good way. It's not a healthy way. And if I were advising the president, I say throw that crap away and never touch it again. Start the addiction recovery process right now by eliminating all Diet Coke immediately. Now, that said, it had been in the news that RFK and Melania Trump, the president's wife, had been pushing him to move in the direction of reducing some of his processed food intake and eat in a more thoughtful, more healthy way. So there were some reports that he was not having buns with his burgers to reduce, and other things to reduce caloric intake, making some simple adjustments. We have some evidence that he was eating salads and soups more often than a lot of the processed fast food from before, which is a positive direction. I don't know that he's actually stayed with those improvements. And his physique certainly suggests that he has not stayed with those improvements. So maybe he, like many of us, really struggles with yo-yo dieting. That's entirely possible here based on what we see. It does appear that Donald Trump loves his food, and the foods that he loves, not necessarily the healthiest ones. So in terms of just looking at this through the lens of healthy eating, there's definitely a lot of room for improvement for our president. And he would see fantastic positive changes in probably like his lipid profile, his cholesterol would probably improve. You probably even see greater levels of energy if we could just get the guy to eat a vegetable, because it's been established he tends to shun vegetables. He does love steak, which is great. You can get so many protein benefits, creatine benefits from consuming steak. There's certain kinds of protein quality you can only get from animal meats. And so his penchant, his favor of steak does help. It is a check mark in a positive box for him. But most of what we know, we kind of conclude all of this and to kind of recap it. Most of what we know about the president's dietary patterns, his regular diet, is concerning at best, with definite room for improvement. Whether or not he'll make those changes remains to be seen. Thanks for tuning in for this third episode of our series on President Trump, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more useful tools and guidance, go to CrossFitEdwardsville.com and feel free to like, share, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comment sections down below. See you in the next episode.